2019 agenda of the Occupancy Tax Committee, and I would support a motion to approve the minutes of the last meeting. Moved and seconded. Moved by Matt, seconded by John. All in favor?
Aye.
Against? Carried. Reports on revenue from County Treasurer.
Good morning, everybody. Good news, we're up about 5.7% from this time last year, actually from this time in September. The disbursement was made, Lisa just told me, to the towns for October, so all you should have received your money. If you haven't, let us know. And that's about it. Any questions?
Any questions for Mike? Hearing none, thank you, Mike. Report of activity from the Adirondack Civic Center Coalition.
Is it better to talk in the mic?
Yes.
Good morning. We submitted a couple reports from last quarter, both the list of upcoming events for the final quarter and a performance report from the previous quarter. And I think those were passed around, hopefully, sent by email this time in regular mail, so I hope that expedited some things. And if you want to start, before I give our little update, I'd be happy to take any questions or... Okay, we'll talk about things coming up. Last time we talked about some renovations underway at the Civic Center, and we mentioned the new lobby, and so we brought pictures. That was requested. You'd be interested to see what we plan. So Jeff will pass out what the renovations are looking like. We just came from facilities meeting this morning, and it looks like the marquee should be up by January 1. So we're securing sponsorships, and that'll be, again, a new revenue source for the coalition, something that hasn't happened. What do you have any announcements? Or?
Yeah, well, at 10 o'clock this morning we announced Gilbert Godfrey is coming to the Civic Center. It's a comedian, if you've heard of him. He'll be there January 7th. Tomorrow we're going to announce another show, a pretty good show for December 19th. Those are the two new shows we're going to announce this week. But Gilbert Godfrey has been officially announced for January 7th, so hopefully that'll be a pretty neat show down there. We had the circus a few weeks ago, and it went pretty well. This weekend we have our Larac Fall Festivals at the Civic Center on Halloween and November 1st. So that's the first time we've had that show, so we're excited for that. And the nighttime on Halloween we're having a little concert in Heritage Hall. A Beatles tribute band and an AC/DC tribute band will be there. So we're hoping that'll be a nice night. And then the rodeo comes to town the first weekend in November, which is traditionally a very good event for us. And then November 20th is the New York State Volleyball Championships here at the Civic Center for the weekend. Which we're told we'll bring about 400 hotel rooms to the region for that event. We had Special Olympics a few weeks ago as well. We had the opening ceremonies at the Civic Center. We served 955 athletes dinner, and we're told 800 hotel rooms were used that weekend for the Special Olympics, which were at the Civic Center and some other venues in Warren County. And then Five Finger Death Punch, which we talked about last time, was here. The Queensbury Hotel was sold out, and Kim, the director of sales, said because of the show. So we're starting to track, how many rooms are used for events down at the Civic Center, and certainly we'll keep reporting that to you as we go further on. Rooms and certainly, retail, restaurant, money as well comes in for all those shows.
We did compile a list of zip codes. I'll pass this around. This is literally hot off the press. And what it is it's zip codes from January 1 of this year until, I don't know, maybe a week ago. Pretty current. It's zip codes only for tickets through online, not if you, and what? And telephone, right. So not if you go up to the box office yet. But the plan is that when you go and buy a ticket in person at the box office, we'll start collecting zip codes there. and we're organizing some volunteers for some other statistical information that we'll pass on as soon as we get it, but it's helpful for us to see what types of events people want to see and who's coming for these events so that we can market other events in the future. So I have a few of these, I'll pass these out, and then I'll email Martin if he wants the zip code list. Again, it's through this month. And I think that's it.
Rachel?
I just was down there for the Special Olympics. I thought it was fabulous. It was great to see that type of an event go on and the Civic Center so busy. But, you know, part of me hesitates bringing this up, but I gotta tell you, it's obviously door knocking season, so I am getting a lot of feedback about the Civic Center. And one of the things that I promised I would bring forward at a meeting, I know in terms of the cost of a hockey ticket, you know, I don't know how much control you have on that, or if any, is my understanding very little. But obviously, you know, the buzz is out there about how expensive these tickets are, and it is an expensive night out for a family. But it brings me to the next point where we've talked about bringing in the local vendors, the contracts we have with food and beverage. And you know, I've had some people say to me, my God, you can't even go to the hockey game and get a beer, it's $10. You know, we're paying New York City like $80+. I think it's something to be aware of. I think we're hearing a lot about the refreshment costs. I'm gonna bring it up again that I don't know what your zip codes show you, but I would think that giving a local discount to Warren County residents would be something to consider. We've talked about it, everybody has said, yeah, you know, sounds like a great idea, but we haven't had any movement with it. But especially given the feedback that we're getting from the community about the increasing costs, you know, it might be something worth looking at.
I think also too, literally until September 30th, our hands have been tied in a number of ways. Ovations just left, and we had very little control over their, you know, territory. We do have some wiggle room now, and we are able to consider these types of things. Exactly, if we outprice the item, then that's going to hurt us as well. Just on a side note, Special Olympics, for example, you were there. One of the coalition members donated the entire catering of that. It was almost 10 grand to the community, to the players. So, you know, absolutely, it's all for the community, and we do take that into consideration. Absolutely. What can we do to drive up the cost of concessions? That's a huge moneymaker for us. So now that they're out, now that Global's out, we took over October 1st. You know, we can really get into these things. I appreciate your comments.
I think just a few other quick items on that. We just partnered with Respecter Coffee, sell coffee at the Civic Center for all the events, which is a local provider downtown Glens Falls. For the first two hockey games, Fitzgerald Dango's has done the pizza, where it's the old Pizza Hut space, so that's another local company. It's kind of on a game-by-game basis currently, but we're looking to have a long-term partnership with a local entity for that space as well. And then, like Saturday night, we had a $2 beer special up to through the first period. It was for Labatt Blue type of beer. So we are sensitive to that, and we're going to keep working on trying to do some specials. For the preseason game, we had a special with a $5 popcorn and soda special, which is almost a 50% off discount. So we're going to try to continue those as well. And then for tickets, you're right, this coalition doesn't set the prices. The Thunder does, of course, but I know they partner with Storks on a discount for certain games. I've seen the Storks, and I know they're in the Clipper magazine to try to do some discounts as well for the ticket prices. So, but yeah, we don't control the ticket prices.
Doug?
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. Maybe you don't have these numbers, but I was just curious, you know, in most businesses, they go like to like, year before compared to year two, and so forth and so on. And knowing that the coalition only bought it, you know, halfway through the year and so on. But I was curious to see if A, you had the revenue numbers for events for 2014, and B, if you did, how are we stacking up on revenue for events other than hockey for 2015 compared to 2014? Are we on track for the same type of revenue to be brought in? Are we behind on that type of revenue? You know, I'm just trying to get a feel for, and I'm not sure if we even have those numbers.
And what I referenced in this report was that we plan on having a pretty thorough year-end report for you, maybe the December meeting where we can take a look at the year and compare it to what we know about last year. what we know about last year is we came into a huge deficit, a budget of, hundreds of thousands of dollars. So we have that, we might not know the particulars of each event. Global had a lot of that info of their own. Revenue overall, I think we're, for per show, and correct me if I'm wrong, but per show, we calculate what we think we're gonna make on the show, and we're seeing that. So Five Finger Death Punch was fantastic, but we were on track for that. The key to this is more events. So if you have one event in there a month, you're still gonna have the same utilities, you're still gonna have the same costs. That's where you lose money. The key is getting more events in there so that your monthly revenue overall is what the offset is, and that's what we're working on.
So I guess my follow-up question would be then, where are we in the number of events? Because I totally agree
Yep.
that the more the events, we still have our fixed base costs, so the more events, hopefully profitable, the better off we're gonna be. So how many, are we on track to have more events this
Yeah.
year
By
than
far.
2014,
We're
or
up.
less events, or? So we're on track to have more events?
We're absolutely on track to have more, or at least the same number.
Yeah, certainly, I got there late in the year, in July, but, I'm not quite sure what we did in 14, but, lately we've booked a lot of events. And a lot of them are smaller events, not the big ones that, that make those news, but, certainly, they bring in decent revenue, so. But we're looking to, to do more, be a very active building. Even if, we'll do a show that, we wanna make a few $100 worth it if people are coming to the Civic Center, they're going down Glen Falls. We're gonna be very aggressive trying to book events. Big ones, small ones, you name it. Heritage Hall for sure.
So we'll probably have even more solid information though going forward, and I'm not trying to put you,
No.
you guys bought it, and like you said, you got one big revenue piece, they didn't break it down by event or whatever. But you knew what events occurred.
I can absolutely find that out, and I'll put that in the year-end report. I'll tell you how many events that we saw from 2014. That information's gotta be public and out there.
That's what I would think.
And I'll say how many, we know how many we did this year, and what we project for 2016. I can do that, sure.
That like-to-like comparison and
Yeah.
so forth, so we, that, to me, that's how businesses are.
Right.
How'd you do against the year before?
Right.
Like-to-like comparison. All right, thank you.
Yep.
Any other questions for the coalition? I must say that your report is much more detailed under the leadership of Jeff Mead, and we appreciate it.
And so do I. He's been a huge factor in giving us this information. The zip code came from Jeff too, so again, I'll email that to Martin, and you can pass around. I only made a few copies.
Okay.
You wanna grab your,
Have those back?
No, I haven't.
Oh, no, please, sorry.
Discussion of funding for festival space fencing. Treasurer. And we'll take all suggestions.
Well, just quick background, I think it was $183,000 or $185,000 was the total cost for the fence to go around, and at the time, a resolution was done to, for a dedicated funding stream was to give me the authority to borrow money. I don't wanna borrow that amount of money, it's ridiculous to borrow that. We paid for the fence out of the unappropriated fund balance. What I would like to suggest is that we take that $183,000 out of the occupancy tax, pay back ourselves, basically, and then charge back to the village for their percentage of what the fence should be. We have more than enough money in the occupancy tax. There's about a $1.5 or $6 million fund in there, so that's my suggestion. I would like the reason I'm bringing this now is that, as the accountant and me, we wanna get this put to bed before the end of the year so that everything is all sewed up.
As we all know, the fence was a necessity.
Absolutely.
It had to be,
I
so.
don't disagree with that.
Yeah, I think it's a good recommendation, but I would say that should be an obligation to be set aside for Warren County. Whatever's left in that account this year, I'm not sure what it is, and next year, so that we don't double count over to, Warren County on the set aside, if you
Well-
see what I'm saying.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, in follow-up to what was just been discussed, I did a couple of things. First of all, we checked the balances. The Warren County balance of the $100,000 that was given to Warren County this year is at $46,000. We have that special project discretionary fund, which is not necessarily geared to Warren County, but it hasn't been spent, and it's $22,000. And then there's also some unused event funding that was for allocation for your events of $5,000. So if you look at those funds, that's $73,000. Warren, the fence came in, Mike, a little, we might want to double check these numbers, but I'm told the fence came in lower than what the figure that was originally given to you. I'm told that the fence came in at $159,432. Now, we can double check that.
Well, yeah, 'cause
But-
I just checked this morning, I thought the invoices were about 180 something, but
Yeah,
okay.
there may be, somebody may not have added up everything, so we'll need to check that, but if it is I just wanna use the 159, not, and it may be Mike's, but just to give you an example, if it was, 'cause I figured it off 159,432, if that were true, and you took that 73,000 left over, that would mean Warren County share, well, let me back up. Warren County share of 159,432 is $98,847. The Lake George share is $60,584. So on Warren County share, if we applied that $73,000, we would end up with $25,000 balance. And if we followed Supervisor Conover's suggestion, what it would mean then is that instead of getting $100,000 next year, Warren County would roughly get $75,000. I spoke with the mayor of Lake George on the village share. He's prepared to immediately pay $30,000 of that $60,000, and he said he could pay the balance after June 1st. And, you know, we discussed, I told him what we were thinking of from Warren County's perspective, but he pointed out that the money being paid to the village under the OCC tax is actually shared with the town. And I think he said he only had something like 17,000 extra, so that situation wouldn't necessarily work for them, I don't think. So the question would be is, can we wait till June 1st for the balance of the payment? I spoke with Rob Lynch briefly. He pointed out that we've been doing some sharing back and forth on some of these other deals. I spoke with Martin, and in fairness to Martin, that was just minutes before the meeting, so he didn't have a chance to look at it. But if we could do that, that might be a way to clear this whole thing up.
Yeah, I would move that,
Reasonable to me.
I would move that plan onto the floor.
Okay.
For considerations.
And seconded by Matt?
I don't wanna
Discussion.
complicate matters any further, but as you know, we're looking at the fund balance now in terms of, possibly, adjusting. We were very conservative in the initial set-aside because, we wanted to be careful that, about the fund balance in the account, but I think that, the numbers are, hopefully going to be strong and continue strong, and if they are, it's possible that the county share as well as some of the towns might actually be a little bit more next year. We're working those numbers right now, but I don't know if you have a timeline on that yet, Paul, in terms of probably sometime early next year, maybe?
We can have those whenever you would like. We know that the numbers are going to be stronger than we originally projected, which is a good news, because the occupancy tax was growing faster than what we had projected. So if you wanted to do a higher allocation to the town, and towns to villages, city, et cetera, you'd be able to do that. We just need some guidance ultimately as to what kind of increases you'd like to look at. But we can start to work on that. It really is how fast you would like to bring it forth. If you think you wanna wait till the year is closed out and bring it forth in January, February, we certainly could do that. Whatever makes most sense to the committee and to you, Supervisor Conover.
Yeah, my feeling is I would wait until the new year, but the, you know, I still would wanna be, you know, conservative, prudent, and maybe you could run some scenarios, regardless of when we step out, and that'll be up to the committee. Maybe you could run some scenarios working with Mike to see, what, you know, we absolutely, under no circumstances do we wanna overshoot the runway here. So I think the initial pass on this was right on target, and also some of the supervisors need to, that voted for this in the first instance need to, that had some concerns about what the implications would be to the fund balance. You know, we need to reassure them that we're we're in good shape in that regard, so, but
Would-
that was, I would say next year, but, I'd like some scenarios, or maybe the recommended scenario from staff in terms, working with the treasurer on this.
I would prefer if we could do it next year, look at that way we can close out the first year of actual, what we're doing with the new plan, and then see exactly where we stand. And then we've gotta project out, you know, with,
Reserve into the mix too. Use some of that, maybe.
Mike, when you say next year, like, what, I know you don't close your books till the end of February officially. or you-
well, no, yeah, I mean, we can come up with something, you know, in January, February range. I'm just saying that I think it might be jumping the gun a little bit to try to plan additional funding at the end of this year. Let's wait until we've actually got everything all closed out at the end of this year, and then look at it January, February, March of next year to see how you may wanna go forward to increase that.
Could we bring a scenario, do you think, to this committee if they held a committee meeting at the end of January, you know,
Oh, yeah.
following the
Yeah,
January board meeting?
Yeah,
Would that be
I don't-
acceptable?
Yeah, I think, I
That
don't see a
works for
problem
me.
with that.
That works for
Yep.
me. It's up to the
Okay.
balance of the committee. At least then it would give, the towns that are programming some advance, you know, information on money as they're programming 16. A lot of the towns are doing that, you know, late this year, but, at least they know they can count on what they received last year. But if there should be a little bit more, and they were to hear January, February, March through there, that would be a good thing, you know, from a timing point of view.
Okay. Old business pending items? None. New business, if any? None.
I don't think we voted on that. I had a question, Josh, if I could.
We need a resolution.
Oh, we can move that in a second, okay.
You want to do the resolution first,
Yeah.
and I'll ask my question? Okay.
Okay. I forgot. Moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Against? Carried.
Okay, thanks, Mr. Chairman. I had a question for, Mike, our treasurer. Our occupancy tax revenue is up, okay? I don't know what the percentage is, maybe someone in the room with. Is it running proportionally, the same to our sales tax revenue increase?
No.
And it's not, okay, that's
No.
where I was going with that. So what are the, just so I can get a handle on it, our occupancy tax revenue is up what percentage?
As of comparison from last year at this time to now, 5.7%.
5.7 last year.
I'm guessing overall for the year, we're probably gonna be in the 6% range.
Okay, and our sales tax revenue is up only
0.06.
0.06. And I find that, you know, a little interesting, seeing that obviously we're having more people, staying in our rooms, our household, or our rooms, right, our occupancy tax? Shouldn't that be
Higher
closer?
room prices.
I think,
The prices may be higher, and that would, but I'm just talking about, wouldn't we see additional people in that occupancy tax revenue? And wouldn't that correlate to a little stronger sales tax revenue increase? That's
Well,
where I'm going with
I
this.
think in the past, that may have been true, but, according to NISAC, the gas is about 11% of our,
Really?
of our take. And you know where the gas prices are going, so that's an obvious loss there. The fourth quarters always used to be very strong. They have fallen off in the last few years, to a point where they're, they've been a negative. So, you know, the number of people in the area, you would think, but after reviewing this a lot and looking at it, I think it's just the gas prices for fourth quarter. Because the car dealers I've talked to are doing okay, they're selling cars, and that's a big ticket item. But the fourth quarter retail that used to be Christmas is not there anymore.
That's that piece I mentioned last time, where I think the internet is,
Oh,
as
yeah.
it keeps growing,
Yeah.
is taking away some of our tax revenue very well. Okay, thank you. Thanks.
Al?
Yeah, two things, Mr. Chairman. One, Mike, that would be 11% of the 50 million, or 11% of gross sales.
Gross sales.
Gross sales. So it would be some fraction
Yeah.
of the 50. Just before we adjourn, I just, this was handed out, and, but I really would encourage, supervisors, everyone to take a look at this zip code list, Mr. Chairman. This is, it's from all over the country, really. It's worth looking at, in terms of the, visitors to the Civic Center.
True.
So, that would be good to continue to proceed.
Jim?
This is the occupancy tax thing, but just sort of a question. I've always understood that sales tax, if you buy it online, you still owe, if they don't charge you for the sales tax online, you still owe that, right?
Yes, my understanding is people of New York State are supposed to report that on their income tax return.
Good luck.
I'm just, how do we overcome that?
Well, one thing
I
that's
got it.
happening, I don't mean to jump in on you, Paul, but one of the things that's happening is if you start to notice, like, some of the major retailers now are collecting it and passing it through Sears, Walmart, you know, some of those retailers are starting to collect the sales tax for New York, and so we're getting that, and it's based on the zip code from where you order. So it might start to get a little better, but it's still, I mean, you know, there's an awful lot of, and I guess what the state has told me is if you have an outlet, a retail outlet, like a Sears or Walmart or something like that, within this state, then that sales tax has to be collected and given to the state. If you're outside, it's up to them. Now, like LL Bean, we should start collecting from them because they've just opened an outlet here. I don't know if they had any others in New York, but I mean, you know, they should be on your mail orders. You should, or internet orders, you should be getting charged for the sales tax. So I think it's helping, but we're still not, you know, getting the droves of people buying stuff at Christmas the way they used to.
Yeah?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So, I just did an online order with Cabela's and they charge sales tax. Does that get credited to Warren County, or is that gonna be New York State? They don't have a store here, Warren County, so how
It
does
should
that?
be distributed based on the
My
zip
zip
code.
code, yeah.
That was my understanding, that's the way it was
Mine
explained to
too.
me.
Wondered if that, yeah, I wasn't sure.
Yep.
I know I paid it.
I was just gonna comment on the Christmas sales. I think one of the things that's hurting us too is if you're a resident of Warren County and you go to Albany and you buy the goods down there, they're gonna keep the sales tax dollars. So Warren County residents, to the extent that they would like to have the sales tax dollars kept in Warren County, it would be, you know, helpful, of course, if they could shop locally.
Saratoga, same thing. I mean, I go to
Yeah.
the malls down in Saratoga.
As far as tourist spending goes, Ron Montesi said it best years ago when he said it takes a lot of T-shirts to make up the sales tax on a Cadillac. Rachel?
I just have a question in context of trying to encourage people to shop up here, and I heard some discussions the other day about it, but what's being done in terms of a traffic study or to figure out how to take care of the traffic issues off of exit 20 with the outlets? And, I mean, I have people that say to me, they aren't coming up near this area because it's too many traffic for way too long. And I guess
Traffic
it's
stay ongoing, isn't it?
Yes, this had been discussed with the Economic Development Committee at one point. Ed Bartholomew is leading the charge from the Economic Development Corporation, looking for a match to the county funds that were put up, I think, 2 or 3 months ago now. And the town of Queensbury's also put up funds, I believe, towards that.
We did through the EDC, through our representation there.
And, in fact, that's one of the things on my agenda is to contact Ed and see where we are on that, because that is absolutely critical to try to cure that traffic problem, because we have, as you know, a lot more new outlets there. And, hopefully, if we can clear the traffic issues, we can encourage more people to come here.
Any other comments? Any from the audience?
Well, I'll make one comment.
Yes.
Specific to sales tax versus occupancy tax. At the hotels that we control or operate, if you will, this is anecdotal for you all, but what we found this year is because our rates went up, we clearly drove more occupancy tax. Those same guests then told us they decreased spending in other areas, specifically food. heard that from a lot of customers, and we certainly saw it in our, garbage pickups, that they were using a lot more at the hotels and not necessarily in the restaurant. So I suspect,
Grill purchases,
I'm sorry?
and grill purchases.
Yeah.
They put grills on the property, they buy food, they cook their own.
So I think they are still, people are definitely coming to the area, but they are being more careful about how they're budgeting their spending.
Good, that's good to know, thanks.
So to that point, that's where when we talked, sorry, Laura, are you done?
Yeah, go ahead.
So to that point, when we talked about the occupancy tax, it's important to remember there's two variables. One's how many people come, and then what's the rate. The rate, we can, from a hotelier's perspective, we can push that rate, but you can't push it infinitely. Right, there's a point at which people won't buy. And as Laura's pointing out, we're pushing them to a spot where now they make decisions. Where am I gonna eat? So this is where, you know, the message that we've been trying to convey is getting just simply more people in the county is a good thing. Then rates will go where rates go in terms of hotel rooms, and then everything else will follow its normal course. People will go out to eat, buy, you know, whatever. Whether it's a t-shirt or parasailing or whatever else they may do to entertain themselves.
Okay. Having no other business, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Ron, second by John, all in favor? Thank you.